8 months ago, on January 1st of this year, my channel had 16 subscribers and no videos. 2 weeks later, I had a video with over 1 million views and several others with substantial 6-figure view counts. I was approaching 10,000 subscribers and I hadn't even been made a YouTube partner yet. To say that my channel grew quickly would be an understatement. There was no growth, things just exploded. I never expected my channel to ever take off, let alone so quickly. Nobody does. So I released more videos and they continued to perform well. Not even a month after my first video, I'd been contacted by an agent for a Raid Shadow Legends sponsorship. When you start making YouTube videos, you don't expect to get any views for months or even years, and only then do you end up maybe catching a break and gaining some momentum, if you're lucky. As you can see, that didn't really happen for me. My videos took off basically immediately. It was surreal because only a few weeks prior, I had been on the verge of death. I didn't want to talk about how my channel started because I'm kind of ashamed of it. I spent most of 2021 in a downward spiral. I firmly believe that if things had continued much longer, I would have certainly died. I had struggled with heroin since I was a teenager, but in college I got my act together. Prior to drugs, video games had been my passion, and the first time I got sober was right around the time the first Five Nights at Freddy's game came out. I ended up watching Markiplier's hilarious Let's Plays, playing the game myself, reading the subreddit, and eventually diving deep into MatPat's fascinating theories.
Scariest game of all creation.
It got me excited about gaming again. I know how silly this sounds, but all those years ago, it was for some reason the stupid robot bear and the fandom surrounding it that helped me rediscover my passion for the nerdy stuff that I used to love. It made me happy again. When you're addicted to heroin or any other opioid, your life revolves around it, and you give up your old interests in the pursuit of one more hit. Learning to find joy in the things that you used to love is one of the most difficult parts of sustaining sobriety, even long after the horrific physical symptoms of withdrawal have subsided. I managed to get through it though, and things went well over the next 6 or so years. My career was going well, I was able to rekindle a lot of the relationships I'd lost as a result of my drug use, I never relapsed in that period, I kept my life together, I played each new FNAF game as they came out, and I remained a big fan of the series. I remember coming home from class or work and being excited to watch Markiplier's pre-release Let's Plays of each upcoming game. I'd anxiously await MatPat's inevitable theory videos that tried to make sense of this bizarre but fascinating story. Time passed though, and things changed. With the release of Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator, the story that we had been following had been somehow given a pretty awesome conclusion, and there just weren't that many remaining loose ends I was interested in seeing tied up. Markiplier had all but moved on, and MatPat's theories were now pulling from other FNAF media like the books. I didn't have anything against the books, I just didn't feel like I was the target demographic for them. Life went on, and the landscape of the scene evolved. There were new games to get excited about, but my tastes were changing. By the time Ultimate Custom Night came out, I was starting to lose interest in the FNAF series as a whole. Some other things changed in my life too, and I again lost interest in video games and other nerdy stuff. I unfortunately didn't replace that hobby with anything else, and inevitably I started to find myself unsatisfied with my life again. This would lead to devastating consequences. The pandemic had just started, and we were all stuck at home with nothing to do and no end in sight. After over half a decade of sobriety, for reasons my psychiatrist and I are still trying to understand, I picked up the phone one day and I bought heroin. I went to the pharmacy, bought syringes, went home, and stuck a needle in my arm again. Relapses are like that. They just come out of nowhere sometimes, even after years of being clean. Drugs quickly consumed my life again, and before I knew it, my addiction had gotten far, far worse than it had ever been before. This only exacerbated my disinterest in my former hobbies. I stopped caring about video games, computers, programming, all of it entirely. All that mattered to me was getting drugs, shooting up, and sitting there. Constant anxiety, constantly being in pain because my veins had all collapsed and shooting up was a difficult, labor-intensive process. I still have a lot of track marks from my drug use, many of which will never fully heal. I got so desperate I started injecting into the veins in my leg, ankle, and foot in an attempt to hide the evidence of my drug use. I'm warning you right now, I'm going to describe the injury and show some images of the scar, and it's pretty gnarly, so if you don't want to see it, you can skip ahead or maybe just pass on this whole video. Shooting into my foot really messed me up. They were constantly bruised, swollen, infected, and covered in weeping wounds. I remember having trouble taking my socks off at the end of the day, as they'd fused with the blood and pus coming out of the holes in my leg. The smell was unbearable. I swear this must have been what Springtrap or the FNAF animatronics smelled like. I can only describe it as rotting flesh, because that's what it was. I'd shoot up between my toes, into the side of my foot, into the back of my ankle, anywhere I thought I could find a vein. My leg looked like a zombie. It was a giant scab. I'd frequently find myself overdosing and wake waking up on the floor, my face pressed against the wall. I'd randomly just vomit, bloodstains covered all my stuff. I'd use the same needles multiple times and they'd grow dull and difficult to use. This only made them damage and bruise my body more. I lost a lot of friends to dope, but not long ago I lost one friend in particular, and it still hurts to think about. As I said before, I was in hell. By some bizarre twist of fate, just like when I had first gotten clean back in college, I saw that the new Five Nights at Freddy's game was on the horizon. This one was set to be the biggest, best one yet. It made me think back to the first time I got clean, before everything had gone wrong again. I wanted to experience Security Breach properly, the way I used to experience games before everything turned to shit. Just under a year ago, about a month before I made my first video, I took my last shot of heroin and prepared for hell. As of recording, this would be the last time that I shot up. I hope I die before I do it again. Withdrawal was agony.
Agony.
I maintain it is the worst pain a human being can endure. You just have to remind yourself that it won't last forever. The pain, the puking, the sweating, the crying. You have to force yourself to eat bread and drink water, mostly so that you at least have something to throw up instead of dry heaving for hours and hours on end. For me, it took about 10 days before I was feeling well enough to, lift my head up, walk around a bit, catch up on some anime, start to be myself. As fate would have it, Security Breach came out shortly after. I hadn't actually been following the game that closely since its announcement back in August of 2019. I just knew that I was incredibly excited to see this iconic FNAF stuff rendered in a 3D first-person free-roam Unreal Engine title. In the same way the classic FNAF games had helped re-spark my love for video games and horror when I first got my life together back in college, the excitement and hype surrounding Security Breach reinvigorated my love for the series and gaming culture all over again. This honestly did so much for helping me stay sober. There were an infinite amount of FNAF rabbit holes to go down, and with the arrival of this huge new game, new discoveries and theories were dropping every day. As a lifelong gamer, I had followed gaming YouTube content since its inception. I remember watching the first Game Theory episode on Chrono Trigger like less than a week after it came out. I remember I remember watching Markiplier's Amnesia videos back from before he had a face cam.
Who's there? Oh shit!
I had mixed feelings after playing Security Breach. It was exciting and cool, and I do still credit it for pulling me out of my post-drug depression, but the picky gamer in me definitely took exception to some of the design choices. More importantly though, like everyone else, I was highly anticipating MatPat's inevitable theory video. On New Year's Day of this year, my life would change. For some reason that I still don't know, I was compelled to make a YouTube video about Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. Specifically, I was frustrated with the game. I saw all this coverage from the big creators that I watched, like MatPat and Markiplier and Dawko, and while their videos were great, I didn't see a lot of hard-hitting, no-holds-barred critical coverage out there. As someone who loves FNAF but was dissatisfied with Security Breach, I didn't feel that my feelings were adequately represented in the FNAF community. Few were talking about the game's shortcomings. I pulled out the microphone my big brother had bought me as a birthday gift, sat down at my crappy laptop, and wrote a script. I spat out a voiceover and started editing a video. This would go on to become Security Breach, What Went Wrong, my first proper video essay, and really the first proper video on my channel, other than a short Bloodborne video I made to test out my capture card. My voiceover in this video is so bad. I'm super proud of it, and it did really well, but it's really tough to listen to now.
However, Security Breach has been out for a bit now, and having been given some time to digest the game, I have only one question. What happened?
Regardless, my opinions obviously resonated with people, and the video did quite well. I was shocked, but more importantly, I was thrilled. Viewers seemed impressed with it, considering it was my only video, and many seemed confused that I had only 16 subscribers. This was incredibly motivating. It essentially cured the depression I was experiencing as a result of the heroin withdrawal. It gave my life purpose again. I was finally feeling like myself, and I really enjoyed the process of making the video, releasing it, watching it, and interacting with people in the comments. No longer was I just killing time waiting to feel better. I felt better. The very same day that my first video came out, MatPat would drop one of his massive Security Breach theories. In it, he put forth what would become the most controversial and divisive aspect of the game, the Gregbot theory. This worked in my favor, and a lot of people who watched MatPat's video were then given a recommendation for mine. I continued to build up my channel, producing 20 videos on various topics. This is one of the reasons I've always found it silly when people say that I built my channel on drama, because my first 20 videos all performed incredibly well, especially for a brand new channel, and none of them were about drama at all. These were just simple video essays where I gave my opinions on topics that I found interesting. My 21st video was the first one that I'd consider particularly controversial. While I'd always been a big FNAF fan, I hadn't dived too deeply into the fan game scene, having only been exposed to whatever Markiplier or Dawko had played. Furthermore, the Fazbear Fanverse initiative had been established while I was still in pretty bad shape, and I didn't hear about it at the time. Having since learned of it and the countless associated scandals, I did feel strongly about it, and I've always said that the Fanverse is the coolest thing that Scott has ever done, including in this video. I saw all the scandals happening, and it upset me that this awesome thing Scott did to give back to the community had surely ended up being a huge pain in the ass for him, and I said as much in my video. The video actually had a slow start, but it went on to do quite well and was praised by a lot of people in the fan game community, including some fanverse developers. I don't actually consider this a drama video. It touches on some controversies that everyone already knew about, and I lamented that if these scandals kept happening, Scott might pull the plug on the whole fanverse and stop admitting new games, which sort of ended up happening it seems, but it wasn't like a drama video. The Afton built video came shortly after, and to this day, it's my most successful video ever. I'm incredibly proud of it, but if you want more details on its production, check out this whole video I made on the subject. It's complicated. Now we need to rewind a bit. A week or two after I started making videos, I released a short Poppy Playtime review. I think it was like my 5th or 6th video. Shortly after, I was contacted by someone who ended up putting me in touch with Eckercoaster, a YouTube animator who had made allegations that Poppy Playtime had deliberately stolen concepts from his game Venge. My Playtime is Over trilogy ended up pushing my channel over the edge, and about 4 months after I started my channel, I reached 100,000 subscribers and received my silver play button. Anyone who's watched my videos knows that the vast majority are not controversial. They're just fun videos on topics I think are interesting. You can't rely on there being controversies every week to build a YouTube channel on. There's no such thing as a FNAF drama channel because there simply isn't enough interesting FNAF drama to support such a channel. However, my most successful videos have been the ones that cover breaking news or controversial topics, and there are some people who have only seen those videos. They don't realize that for every one of these drama videos that I've made, there are like 5 non-drama videos. They don't go back and see that my first 20 videos have absolutely nothing controversial in them other than some hot takes about Purple Guy, and maybe some borderline thumbnails that are so over the top nobody actually took them seriously. Plus, give me a break, I had like 10k subs when I made these. You can tell me that my channel was built on drama or something, and it's true that those videos have performed the best. It doesn't bother me at all though. I'm incredibly proud of them, and I found those controversial topics fascinating. Clearly lots of other people did too. However, drama videos will never make up the bulk of my channel. There's just not enough interesting and relevant stuff to talk about. I don't want to talk about age-old drama, and I don't want to talk about some random fan game developer being accused of doing bad stuff or something. If it's not connected to the fanverse or FNAF or something official, who cares? The broader FNAF community doesn't, I promise you. Drama isn't what makes a topic or the resulting video interesting. It's just that sometimes the most fascinating topics happen to involve drama. That was what compelled me to make my first video on New Year's Day, still at the tail end of heroin withdrawal. I thought it would be interesting for a dedicated FNAF fan like myself to look at the series in its latest installment as objectively and critically as I could. It's what I found success doing, and it's what people subscribe to my channel for. I'm not some big YouTuber who's been doing this for years or has employees or editors or anything like that. I'm just a junkie who discovered something new that I love and I'm good at and have found success with, and I really think it saved my life. I owe FNAF and my YouTube channel and all of you everything, so thank you for clicking on my silly thumbnails these last few months, and thank you for watching my videos. I'm still learning, and I haven't always handled criticism well, even if I think it's been in bad faith. I'll continue to be imperfect, but I've decided to go back to how things were at the start. I'm going to continue to make whatever content I want, but only as an observer. I'll still interview people when there's something interesting to cover, but I think the rapid growth that my channel experienced had led some to believe that I'm this well-established figure that I'm just not. I'm not a fan game developer or some OG FNAF community member that's been in all the discords with those insiders for years. I'm just a FNAF fan like all of you who crawled out of hell 8 months ago and started making videos out of my sometimes controversial opinions. I've always strived to be as objective as possible in my reporting, and thus it's for the best that I remain detached from things like the fan game scene, which I frequently cover and will cover in the future. I love FNAF. I literally credit FNAF with helping save me from the depths of despair, and it's the reason I have this YouTube channel today that brings me so much joy. It's because of people like Markiplier and MatPat that I fell in love with the series in the first place, and I obviously owe a lot to them. I owe the most to Scott Cawthon, who made the games without which I don't know where I'd be. It's not fair to say that I'd be dead, or that I wouldn't have found something else that have snapped me out of my despair, but it ended up being FNAF, and I'll always be thankful for that. Anyway, I'll keep making the best videos I possibly can on the most interesting topics I find, and I'll continue to let them speak for themselves. While I know that some of this story is harrowing, make no mistake, I'm an incredibly lucky guy. I was crazy lucky that I dropped my first FNAF video on the same day MatPat dropped his theory at the height of the series' popularity. I was crazy lucky that this random person happened to see my 5-minute Poppy Playtime review and put me in touch with Eckercoaster. I was crazy lucky that at the moment I reached out to Afton Built's community manager, their team leader was in the middle of watching my FNAF VHS video and recognized who I was. I was crazy lucky that I happened to finish and release my Poppy Playtime controversy video right as Chapter 2 was coming out. Most importantly though, I'm crazy lucky that I'm alive, that I survived the horrific things I did to my body. There's nothing special about me, I just got lucky and managed to get my shit together before heroin inevitably claimed my life. I'll never know why others I knew are gone, yet I am still here. I don't think there is a reason, I think it was also just dumb luck. I'm just some guy who has opinions like everyone else. Apparently, I'm okay at turning those opinions into videos, and you guys watching my content has not just changed my life, it's saved it. I can never express how thankful I am for all of your support. Thank you all so much. And finally, if you disagree with something I say, or you don't like the contents of my videos, or you don't like me, you should simply not care, because who the fuck is Theft King anyway?